In this video, I want to help you to develop a smoother, more efficient forehand. And contrary to what you might see on a lot of videos, there's no magic tip or trick that's going to enable you to develop a smooth, efficient forehand. It's about identifying the underlying problem, the thing that's going wrong with your stroke at the moment, the limiting factor, and then working on it and structuring your practice in the right way to overcome your current problem. And then you keep on doing that over and over and over again until you develop a smoother and more efficient stroke. So what I want to do in this video is show you some of my own practice, because this is what I'm working on at the moment. Now, I'm naturally a right-handed player, but I'm relearning to play left-handed because I injured myself in a mountain bike crash. I've got to a certain level where I'm able to rally consistently from the back of the court. If you put me in against an aggressive player, I feel very confident, I feel very good. But where I actually struggle is when they give me a moon ball, when they give me that floaty ball. I'm not going to miss the shot, I'm going to be able to get it back and maintain the rally. But what I really want to be able to do is punish that shot. And I can't at the moment, basically because my timing isn't good enough. I'm not smooth enough or efficient enough on my forehand. So that's what I'm working on, and I want to show you how I'm doing it, because it's probably going to look a little bit different to what you might think. Hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be awesome if you could give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, much appreciated if you could do that as well. Also, if you want help figuring out what your underlying issue is with your strokes, whether it's your forehand, your backhand, or your serve, I highly recommend my next Neuro Tennis Challenge. I'll place a link to it in the description, or you can go to neurotennis.net/challenge to register. So in terms of having an efficient forehand that can hit with both power and spin and consistently, there's kind of two things that are really important. The first one is going to be setting up in the right position for your shots. I spent the first couple of years while I was playing left-handed focusing on that, but I'm relatively good at that side of things now. The second aspect is going to be the timing of your shots. And when you think about timing, there's really two parts that I think about. Two variables. One is when you initiate the swing, so how soon do you start the swing relative to the flight of the ball. And then the second one is going to be how efficiently you use your kinetic chain and how quickly you swing. So the two variables are when you start your swing and then how quickly you swing. And here, what I'm really focusing on is trying to start my swing a little bit sooner, because that's where most people struggle. That's where I struggle. That's the hard thing when you're dealing with these floaty balls. So I spend quite a bit of time working on it in the service boxes. I'm intentionally not using amazing footwork. I'm just trying to get set up in a neutral stance, and I'm trying to start my swing soon enough. So I'm trying to think about driving with the hip to initiate the kinetic chain, hip followed by torso, creating the racket lag, and then the arm taking over and coming through to contact. I'm also trying to keep my head still through contact, but that's kind of a lesser priority. The thing that I'm really thinking on is starting my swing soon enough in terms of driving with my hip. So I want to get the sequencing of the kinetic chain good, hip, torso, arm coming through, and then I effectively want to throw the racket at the ball and then follow through and then finish the swing. And I probably spent 40 minutes in the service boxes just working on this single basic feed, because some of the time I was a little bit late, I wasn't quite getting the kinetic chain use efficiently, so I just did it over and over again until I felt comfortable with it. Then once I became comfortable with it, then I made it a more variable feed. So now it's still the same height, it's still the same level of spin, but it's going from side to side, which means I have to focus on setting up the right distance from the ball. My positioning was a little bit different, but then from there, it was still focusing on that same thing, just trying to get hip, torso, creating the racket lag, and then throwing the racket into the ball. And then once I was comfortable with that, I moved to the back of the court to make things a little trickier. I worked on two different feeds. The first one was a little bit easier, so landing a little bit shorter and a little bit less spinny. The second one was harder, so deeper and really kicking up, so it was up around my shoulder level to really challenge my timing. And when I was at the service line and when I was at the baseline, I wasn't trying to hit the ball hard. I'm not trying to crush the ball. I'm trying to get a nice, efficient contact point out in front, but having done that, efficiently using my kinetic chain. And when you get to the back of the court, you can see that there's a little bit of wind today, so the spacing is an important factor. I used to set up much too close to the ball. I've done a lot of work on it and it's generally pretty good, but on this day, in this practice session, the wind was blowing into me, so I was having to set up even further away from the ball to get the spacing to be where it needs to be. And I highly recommend you record yourself playing and look at your spacing, because when players send me footage of their videos to analyze, guys, the vast majority of the time, the big issue is they're too close to the ball, and that's preventing them from using optimal biomechanics. But I worked on that shorter or the slightly easier feed, then I moved to the back and I work on the deeper feed, and it's exactly the same process. The key thing here is to understand how to practice. You have to work at the right level of difficulty. So I spent a lot of time at the service boxes, then gradually moved towards the back of the court. The thing that I'm working on is exactly the same, just trying to start my swing soon enough. So thinking about the flight of the ball, where it's bouncing, initiating the drive of my hip soon enough so that I could then efficiently use the kinetic chain and still get that ideal contact point out in front. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Like I said at the start, there's no magic tips or tricks. You can see my practice session is very simple. The key is the process. It's about identifying your limiting factor, what's holding you back, and then structuring your practice so you can get enough repetitions at the right level of difficulty to fix the problem and develop new habits. And when you look at players play, there are generally three main things that go wrong. One, they don't prepare soon enough. Because they're not prepared soon enough, things fall apart after that. The second one is players don't set up in the right position. Generally being too close to the ball, or maybe not moving forwards enough or not moving backwards enough, and they end up taking the ball at the wrong height because they didn't move into position. So that's the number two. And a lot of the time players are trying to fix stuff that can't be fixed because they're compensating for setting up in the wrong position. And then the third and final thing is what I'm really focusing on here. That's the timing. You can only focus on that though once you've addressed the other problems. So you need to analyze your own strokes honestly and figure out where things are going wrong. Like I said at the start, if you would like help with that, I've got a Neuro Tennis challenge coming up where I can talk you through the process in a lot more detail. And as part of that challenge, I'm also going to be teaching you how to use brain-based training to improve your hand-to-eye coordination. Because yes, you have to practice properly, you have to work on the right thing, but ultimately the level of tennis that you can play, how smooth and efficient your strokes are going to be, comes down to your level of skill, and we can improve that with brain-based training. So again, the link is in the description, or go to neurotennis.net/challenge. I hope you have enjoyed the video and found it helpful. If you have any questions about anything that I've covered here, leave them in the comment section, and I'll catch you next time.